How's it going? My name is Andrew Gazecki. I am the founder of MicroAcquire. And in this quick video, I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to evaluate buyers and really help you figure out who's the best person to potentially acquire your startups. And there's a lot of factors that go into that. So in summary, vetting interested buyers means that you want to find the person that is most likely to be serious about acquiring your startup. And there's a number of ways to do that. And it really starts with gauging interest and having the buyer perform to show that they are serious. So if you get a message that's short, such as "I'm interested" or something like that, I do not recommend giving them access to your private details. Ask them some questions in advance and do research and due diligence on the buyer, as the buyer is going to do due diligence on your startup. Now, that could be viewing their LinkedIn profile to see their experience. You can simply ask them, if we get over the finish line, how do you plan on funding this acquisition? What experience do you have in SaaS or e-commerce or whatever your business is? And then at that point, it might make sense to grant them access into your private details. And at this point, I also recommend having buyers sign an NDA, because this is a great way to really weed out people that are just kind of looking around, maybe interested. Just having a simple NDA, which we do provide, can really help separate those that are just kind of interested and the ones that are really interested. And I also recommend preparing in advance. I cannot stress this part enough, but create a data room, put your metrics, put how does marketing work? Do you have a P&L with 3 years of financial statements, both revenue and expenses? Do you know what the profitability of your startup is? What is the growth rate? These are all questions that buyers are going to ask. So be prepared in advance and make sure to go through the resources that we have on MicroAcquire so you can understand what is the data room, what to put in it. So when you do grant buyers access to your private details, you have a full data room ready to go, and it'll save you a ton of time. But more importantly, it'll show buyers that you were serious about selling your startup. And another way to really lock in buyer interest is setting a timeline. Now, what I mean by that is you want to have a timeline for calls. So you're only going to take calls up until this date, and you have an expectation for maybe express interest in moving forward to potentially acquire the startup by a certain date. Maybe this can be spread over 4, 6, or 8 weeks. But what you're doing is you're essentially creating an auction process, so you can help buyers along a timeline so they know that you're serious and that there's other buyers involved. And that can really help buyers make a decision quickly by knowing that you are moving along a process and you are running a formal process. And again, it shows that you understand the acquisition process and how to successfully get acquired. So set a deadline on each stage. So deadlines for initial talks and like diligence, for negotiations, final questions, and then definitely a deadline for when you expect to receive LOIs. Now, one thing I recommend not doing is getting an LOI early and then waiting, say 6 weeks for other LOIs to come in, and then going back to that original person and saying, "Oh, I want to do the deal now." So it's always best to have LOIs kind of come in on the same date, so everyone has a fair chance and you're able to review those all at once and then pick the right buyer from there. And we have a number of different templates, examples, blog posts in the MicroAcquire resource section. So definitely check those out. But just for knowledge, a letter of intent is just a formal document that outlines the proposed terms of an acquisition. A data room is just a shared folder, usually, that contains sensitive information about your startup. So only share that with buyers that you deem to be serious. And then an NDA is a confidentiality clause that is a legal agreement between you and the buyer that prevents the buyer from sharing information about your startup. So in summary, make sure that you spend time getting to know buyers and figuring out which ones are interested by asking them questions. Get to know them and be prepared in advance, because the buyers are going to have questions about you. And the more that you're prepared up front, the easier the process is going to be.